stability for a country that has been rife with it.
That's right. There is heartbreak, uncertainty, and mystery in Haiti right now. The events over the last 48 hours have been shocking and transformative. Haiti was already spiraling downward. It had very serious security issues. It already had a constitutional crisis even before the president was assassinated. And of course, it's also dealing with COVID and the economic downturn. The president's assassination is tragic. I had visited his home where he was killed 2 years ago a couple of times. He had a nice home, but it wasn't the type of presidential palace that it normally has lots of different security gates and walls. So it was probably a little bit easier than a normal president's home to be attacked, although no one expected this. We now have a crisis in terms of succession. Normally in Haiti, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court would take over if the president is incapacitated, but also tragically and unfortunately, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court died last month due to COVID. So we have an acting prime minister who's asserting that he's in control, but ironically, President Moise had actually appointed a different person to be prime minister just a short time before he was killed, and that person was supposed to take over in a few days. This needs to be worked out, and one of the things that people always ask in Haiti is, what does the U.S. government think? What does the U.S. government want? There's no country more important to Haiti than the U.S. government, so my guess is during this period of uncertainty and instability, people are also wondering what will the U.S. do to support Haiti.
So you previously served in the Obama-Biden administration in the State Department, and so I want to ask you specifically about President Biden, who has really been concerned about this. You're right, the U.S. is incredibly important to Haiti. President Biden reopened temporary protected status for Haitians. We've seen thousands of Haitians arriving at our southern border seeking refuge, seeking asylum. So the situation was clearly serious before this even happened. You mentioned the instability in the government. It's a very confusing situation. But President Biden has also been on the record as saying Haiti doesn't matter. Granted, it was a long time ago, but he did say it. And I think this is a time when this could come back to bite him. A long public career can do that. Are you concerned that this is going to be a test for his presidency when it comes to foreign policy in an area where he has not focused very much so far?
Well, so I served in the State Department actually under the last few years of President Bush, and then I was an advisor to President Obama's first campaign for president. President Biden has a lot of familiarity with Haiti, with the Caribbean, with Latin America. The Biden administration has announced already a lot more support for Latin America. I think it recognizes the importance of helping Latin American countries, not just Haiti, but also the Northern Triangle countries, to fix their economic situation. And that will help prevent more migration from those countries and from Haiti and other countries in Latin America to the United States. This obviously puts a big wrinkle in what the Biden administration hoped and expected for the Caribbean, and in particular for Haiti. I think President Biden recognizes how important Haiti is. We have a long record of involvement in Haiti. The last president to be assassinated in Haiti was in 1915, over 100 years ago. It ended up resulting in President Wilson at the time sending in troops to stabilize the country. I don't think that's what President Biden is going to do, but I think that there's been a long recognition over the last 100 years that we have to help our allies in Haiti stabilize, and that to have an unstable country, to have Haiti to turn into a completely failed state would impact our security in the United States. So we can't allow that to happen, not just for the humanitarian reasons, but also for our own safety.
So let's talk about Haiti on the ground for a second. 11 million people, fears of gang violence rising. There are already a gang problem, now an immediate crisis, an acute crisis, no one to lead the country. If you're President Biden, and I'm not saying you have to be, but what do you do here? Do you send in troops like President Wilson, a century ago? Do you send humanitarian aid? I mean, what do you do in this situation?
Well, the government of Haiti, as I understand it, has made an appeal to the UN and the UN Security Council. One of the things that President Biden wants to do, in contrast to President Trump, is work more closely with our allies and have a multilateral approach to crises like this. So what I expect President Biden to do is to take leadership in the UN Security Council and among our other allies to try to get a coordinated response by the international community. There are no great options here. I mean, sending in UN peacekeepers That's happened before also, a bit of a spotty record on that. Sending in U.S. troops, I'm sure Biden doesn't want to commit to that as well. But if the situation gets worse, there is going to probably need to be some sort of outside peacekeeping force. There's going to need to be a lot of humanitarian aid. And most importantly, someone like President Biden can get the political leaders in Haiti, inside Haiti, who caused so much of this internal strife to compromise with each other. That's really why President Moise was in this constitutional crisis even before he was assassinated, was because there was political gridlock in Haiti, and strong leadership by a U.S. president to force those leaders to compromise would go a long way to helping solve the political problems in Haiti.
I wonder, David, if we're going to see something like, a peace talk type situation, but an internal peace talk, because there's not strife, there's not war, it's just unstable. So maybe President Biden will send someone to do that. Who knows? Thank you, David Tafuri. He is a former Obama campaign foreign policy advisor and former Bush State Department official. And